I think I was 9 or 10. I looked back at her and I said, "Hey, this one's for you." I'd never hit a home run before in my life, right? And it just straight over the fence. I don't think there was a person in the world that could have calmed my mom down in that time.
I could see that.
Dude,
I could see
she
that.
was, like, on the fence. She was just going, "That's my baby," just going crazy, so
Hello, friends. I'm Norman Driggers, and you're listening to Your Finest Hour. This is a show where we explore pivotal moments that define our own personal journey. This podcast gets its name from Winston Churchill's famous quote about what a shame to be unprepared for what could have been your finest hour. Through candid conversations with guests who have faced their defining moments, we'll uncover some lessons in self-leadership that can help you prepare for yours. In each episode, we follow a simple but powerful framework where we recount the experience, reflect on lessons learned, and share recommendations you can apply to your own journey. Whether you're just starting out or looking to reach new heights, this podcast is for you. If you find value in these conversations, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd share this podcast with others who may benefit from it. Your support in spreading the word helps the reach. And the more our community grows, the more resources I can invest in making the show an even better experience for you, the audience. Every little bit helps, and I'm greatly appreciative for it. So without further ado, the episode. Brandon Hearne, welcome to the show.
yeah, dude, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. This, just so everyone knows, Brandon is in my inner circle of best friends. He's one of 5 others of guys that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So introducing him, Brandon, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. Just like you said, I'm in the same group as Norm. Norm has actually guided me a lot through this group through the past 7 to 8 years. But I'll get into myself a little bit. So, like we just talked about, 31 years young. Um, I would say that a lot of people call their 30s, their golden years. I I'm kind of looking at it more or less like my new beginning, right? So I spent 12 years in the Air Force, got out in January, now picked up doing some contracting work. Uh, and it's fun. It's different. It's a lot different. So I'm learning a lot. I'm the father of a 4.5-year-old, so I'm learning even more, not only professionally but personally. It's helped me manage a lot of my emotions, and I'm a extremely emotional guy. I'm sure you could tell them that. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. I'm vibing. 30 years, and it's been a fun ride so far, and I'm ready to do another 50. You know?
Yeah, dude. What did you like about, or excuse me, what do you like about being a contractor versus being in the Air Force? Because I thought you were going to be a career guy. You
Uh,
abandoned your country,
so
you bastard.
yeah, okay. I mean, I'm still working. I'm still working for the country, just in a different aspect. No, it's different, a lot different, and there are days I miss putting on the uniform. Um, I miss teaching so much. I miss being able to actually make an impression on those young 18, 19-year-olds that are pushing to become what I have become. I want to be the people that throughout my career have made me who I am, and for them. Being a contractor is not much different. It's weird being at the bottom of the totem pole again. Um, I did get lucky and didn't get hired directly into the bottom. We have a team of about 12 people, and I would say I'm fourth or fifth, so I'm right middle tier. Middle tier leadership, exactly where I was in the Air Force. I got out as tech sergeant, and not much different because everybody I work with is prior military. My boss was in the Marines for 8 years. My senior boss was in the Marines for 22 years. I work with Air Force guys, I work with Army guys, and we support Navy that's supporting US SOCOM. So it's still the same. I'm just now wearing civvies instead of camo every day.
Yeah. So let's actually backtrack, and the way the editing will work out is I'll take the part that I'm getting ready to ask you, and then I'll push that to the front. So let's Let's start off talking about where you're from, dude. Not too far from where I live right now, but yeah, let's deep dive into young Brandon Hearne. Where you from, dude?
Yeah, so I actually went out and bought this shirt today.
What does that say?
Uh,
Fig?
Flow grown, dude.
Oh,
So, yeah. Yeah. No, I like the back of it. It says, "This is Florida, baby." Not everybody makes it out, and it's a dude choking out a gator. Thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, I'm from Florida, North Florida to be specific. Um, I lived in St. Augustine for a little bit. I grew up in Lake City. That's where I call home. And then I spent 8 years from middle school all the way through high school in Crespi, Florida, you know? So basically South Alabama the whole
wait, I was
time.
gonna say, why do you laugh? A lot of people don't know anything about Crestview.
Yeah. So growing up, it was called Crestucky. We are uh, back when I was there, 2006 to 2011, Crestview was not what it is today. It's where everybody went to live because it was cheap. There was a Walmart. That's where I used to hang out on the weekends. It was either Walmart or Sonic. Those are the two places we would hang out. Um, but yeah, it was just a bunch of rednecks, and I say rednecks, but it was a mix. Like you were hood or you were redneck.
I feel like that.
And
Uh,
everybody just hung out together. Yeah.
where'd you go to high
So
school?
Crestview, did 3 years at Crestview High School, and then I graduated. My mom moved out to, Navarre, so I decided to continue my education with Embry-Riddle, and the only school that had that other than Crestview at the time was Choctawhatchee High School, right there on Racetrack in Fort Walton, about 5 minutes from the back gate of Hurlburt.
You play
Yeah.
sports?
I did. So before high school, I played baseball for 8 years. Um, I then jumped into football, thinking football would be a better fit for me. I'm a big dude. Found out very fast. I don't really like contact like that. I tried soccer for a little bit.
No, you didn't. No way.
I did, man. I
So
did. So
for everybody that can see this, because I'm hoping this actually is going to stay a video episode. For everybody that can see this, Brandon Hearne is 6 foot, is it 5 or 6'6"?
6'6".
6'6". Yeah, he's probably six
Yeah,
five, but he tells everybody he's 6'6". But he's six
gotta add
six
it.
two forty in high school. I mean, you had to have been ginormous in high school as well.
I was actually bigger than I am now. I was 6'6", um, 6'5" by your
Yeah.
measurements, and I probably weighed 275 when I graduated. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I was a big
And
boy.
you're out there playing soccer.
Yeah, I tried I did. I tried playing soccer for a little bit. Funny story, I made it through 2 or 3 cuts, right? Because it's tryout. Nobody just makes the team unless, you're tried and true. You've played with them before, so all of us new guys got out there on the field, and, the first 2 days were all endurance. Like, "Hey, how far can we push you, before you can't anymore?" And I was able to keep up. I had lost a little bit. This is before I gained all the weight going into my senior year, right? Um, but we're out there. Third day comes, and now it's all right. Let's test your accuracy. I knew I was not. I was not accurate. I was trying to be out there to body people, steal the ball, and get it to someone that could be a striker, right? Um, so it's my turn. They pass me the ball, and it's a haywire shot, dude. It ends up hitting the coach. He's holding a clipboard like this. It hits the clipboard out of his hands into his face, and he was like, "All right, next." And that was the only chance I got. I blew it in the first shot.
That's some Disney movie shit, dude.
Yeah, dude, it was embarrassing. Yeah, I looked at they had the sheet at Crestview where it was like a big bulletin board, and the only thing going on at the time was soccer tryouts. So everybody was stopping by the board to see, hey, who made it and who got cut. And dude, my name, first name on the cut side.
That's funny. Were you like
Yeah.
a pretty popular kid, like growing up?
Um,
I feel like at that height, girls, I mean, again, I know adult Brandon Hearne and I know how women act around you at bars, but I'm curious on whether or not it was like that when you were in high school as well.
uh, y- yeah, I mean, I was definitely noticed. very early in my life. Yeah. Very early in my life, I decided that I wasn't gonna really, like, put myself with one group. Um, so I hung out with whoever. It didn't matter the group, hung out with the football players during a couple periods because we had advanced weightlifting. I hung out with choir on one side. I hung out with the skater kids on the other side. I was hanging out with the rednecks. Um, yeah, dude, I didn't want to put myself in one group because in Crestview it was weird. There were certain families that had money, and because of the money, even at s- 14, 15, 16, that status that your family had followed you into school. So a lot of the popular kids obviously were the rich families, and I didn't feel like defining myself by like, hey, I can only hang out with this one group. So I did my own thing, and I didn't want to be in, I didn't want to be tied down to one group.
Yeah,
I just liked people at the time.
100%. No, it's someone like, I can align. I can understand basically what you're saying because I was like that when I was in high school. I was just like jumping groups. And so yeah,
I mean, I can
totally.
still see it with you. You get along with everybody still to this day. It doesn't matter who you are.
Dude, people, and that's probably part of the reason why I like even started the podcast. Like everyone is so unique and like even quote unquote like weird kids or whatever. Like I fuck with weird kids, bro. It's like
Yeah,
they're
dude.
just so like everyone's just so unique, dude. Like, and they all have their own story. They all have their own background, the way they see the world. And so it's always just been so interesting to me to talk to people and see what guides their perspective. Which, like I said, is most likely why I started this podcast. But yeah, that makes sense. What was so jump from group to group, friends with pretty much everybody, which I can see that now, like, especially, after meeting you, over the years. What was your family life like then? What did your mom move to Navarre for?
So she got remarried. She got remarried to um a gentleman that very high up in his company, right? Uh, and they wanted to buy a house out in Navarre. Navarre is a nicer area than Crestview by far, right? Closer to the beach. My mom loves the water. I mean, I couldn't stay away from the water because of her. She always wanted to be around the water. That's her spot, and that's why she still lives in Florida to this day. Um, but yeah, we moved out there, and you know, that's it's funny. Anybody that knows the area will say, "Oh, he lived out in Navarre, but he went to Choctaw." Yeah, I drove 45 minutes every single morning
Holy
on 90
shit.
on 98. Yeah, on 98 just so I could continue, doing the dual enrollment with
Mm.
the Embry-Riddle.
Okay. What were you did you already say what you went to Embry-Riddle for? Did I miss that?
I haven't said it. It was really just general aviation. I was trying to get college credits. At the time, I had wanted to go to college. Uh,
At the
I had a
time.
buddy that Yeah, at the time, I had wanted to go to college. Um, I had a buddy that went to Troy University, and he was, part of a frat up there called Sigma Chi, and I had done a couple trips with him. I don't know if I've told you the story of the trips, but I really injured myself on one of them,
Please.
and coming back from that, my mom, and for those of you that don't know this, I'm a mama's boy at heart, right? Like, she says something, it's like, "Yes, ma'am, I'll do it," right? She tells me to sit down, "Yes, ma'am, where?" Kinda thing. But yeah, I was gonna go to Troy, so I was trying to get the college credits up. I wanted to go to college, but not spend 4 years in college. I wanted to finish college as fast as I could and get back to the grind of being down in Florida, right? Um, didn't end up making it to college. Uh, I totaled my car 4 days after turning 18.
What?
Yeah, dude. So I was on my way to school. It was like 7:15 in the morning, and, traffic at the time, I mean,
Yeah,
98. They didn't have
98's
the big bridge
disgusting.
that
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have the bridge that they have now, right? It was a red light, so it would get bogged up right there at the entrance of Hurlburt every single day. Um, and traffic would go from 75 miles per hour. The speed limit's only 55 on that road, but it would go from 75 miles per hour to 0 in a split second.
Yeah.
Uh, Ended up right in front of the Walmart in Navarre. I ended up smacking into the back of this six-figure BMW. I mean, we were going 55 and all I saw was brake lights, didn't have time to stop. My car ended up sliding into the back of his, and, yeah, that changed the course of a lot of things because my mom's not one to just say, "Hey, okay, I'm gonna smack your hand on this. Continue doing what you're doing," kind of thing. It was, "All right, well, you will figure out what to do with that car,
Yeah.
and then, oh, by the way, because I gave you that car as a present, you will now pay for the next car. I will finance it. You will pay for it." So here I am, 3 days, 4 days after turning 18. I'm already $11,000 in debt because I have to buy a car. And that didn't sit well with me. Ended up having 2 jobs to try paying for it. Um, Decided not to do it. And then student debts. When I thought about student debt at the time, because I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, so let me kinda dial it back. I had a 3.3 or 3.4 in high school, right? So it's good enough to be get some form of scholarship, but at the time, if you weren't 3.5 or higher in the state of Florida, I wanna say you got, like, up to 50% of your tuition covered to in-state institutions. Um, well, I wanted to go out of state because I was chasing the party life with
Yeah.
my buddy Trey, and, I couldn't fathom putting on, 65, $75,000 of debt. It just wasn't something I could do.
100%. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, back to where I was. So yeah, hit hit this $100,000 BMW, and out comes a guy in a flight suit from the front of it. I could not tell you this dude's name. I could probably look through my traffic violations. Um, Lo and behold, he was a U-28 pilot.
It's probably an airman, if anything. That would have been funny.
Oh no, dude, he was a pilot. He
Yeah,
was he was a captain or a major at the time, and dude, he gets out, he's furious, right? I mean, I would be too. You have someone that looks like me. At the time, I had a goatee and long hair. I looked like a drug dealer. I
yeah,
did.
that's funny.
Uh, yeah, and he gets out and he's just going into me. He's like, "Oh, what are you on your way to do?" Like, I mean, he's like talking about drugs and everything. He's like, "Oh, you going to get drugs, blah, blah, blah." Um, and he sees me. I pick up my phone and I was like, "Hey, dude, I need to call my mom," knowing she's stuck in traffic behind me now that I caused. I need to call her before she passes me. And I'm freaking. I'm a mess, dude. I'm a mess. Right? Airbags went off. My I couldn't find my phone. Turned out my phone had like cracked the windshield, and it's laying on the dashboard. And I cu he's confused as all get out. He's like, What is this 30-year-old man calling his mom for?" Because that's what I
Yeah,
looked
you're
like.
fucking humongous.
Yeah, dude. And my mom pulls up and she starts going off on him, on me, everybody, dude. When the state trooper pulled up, she's going off on him. I mean, she's just a mess, right? It's mom going into mama bear mode. Uh, but yeah, dude. So I mean, that was the kickstart to why I went the path I did right there.
And it's funny too to continue on that story build. Like you just talked about your mom just laying into everybody. For the people listening or watching this episode, Brandon's mom is the sweetest woman in the world. And the fact, like, she's awesome, dude. Like, just great personality, very beautiful, like, just nice, sweet woman. And I've seen her not necessarily like get upset with like you. I've
Yeah,
seen her talk to you though, and it's funny how she like looks up at you and points at you, and you're kind of
dude.
like you said, like you're a mama's boy, which is awesome. You'll like lean
Yeah,
over her in like a sulked, sad dog mode, and you're just like, "Yes, ma'am." It's the
yeah,
funniest thing in the
yeah,
world.
man. Dude, I will remember this vividly. My mom so senior year again, right? I'm just doing crazy high school boy things, right? And, she first of all, we get into an argument. She says something along the lines of like, "Hey, you better get back to the house right now." And me being a rebellious teenager, 18 years old at the time, I went, "No, not gonna do that." Yeah, dude, I was home 40 minutes later, and she starts yelling at me, right? Trying to paint this picture of like, "Hey, I'm top dog in this house. I don't care how big you are. She looks at me, stops herself mid-rant, and goes, "I'm not going to look up to you and yell. You better sit down right now." And dude, just like you said, sulked over, "Yes, ma'am." And so now she's on top, 5'7". She's on, just going at it.
Yeah, man, that's so funny. Yeah, dude, your mom's awesome. The relationship you guys have is just like you can feel the love too. What do you think makes you a mama's boy?
Oh, man. Um, so not many people know this. My mom, I have a sister, an older sister. She's 4.5 years older than me. Um, my mom got pregnant with my sister when she was 16, and had her at 17. Well, 4.5 years later, my mom's still very young, right? She got pregnant with me at just shortly after 21. And then she had me still when she was 21. So, I mean, if you paint that picture, like that is, I couldn't even imagine having my first child at 17 and then another, you know, at 21. Um, my sister and I have two different dads. Um, right. I mean, it makes sense. Teen pregnancies, I think the survival rate of teen pregnancies when it comes to those people being together isn't very
Yeah.
high. Well, she got pregnant with me when she told the gentleman that is my dad on paper. When she told him, he hightailed it. He took off. So growing up, um, it was a lot of my mom, right? Like I saw my mom be very strong. She had to go back through the dating scene for a little bit when I was very young. When I was Lily's age, she was kind of going back through the dating scene, trying to ensure that who she brought around her her daughter and son was going to be safe
Yeah.
and you know, not treating anybody poorly. Um, when I was, oh man, I was pretty young. She met Chris, and Chris was he was around for the longest. I think they were together from when I was between 3.5 to 4.5, maybe 5, until I had just turned 17. So they were together for quite a while, right? I always tell people, I know I've told you, but if anyone raised me, it was Chris, right? But there's one thing there's one thing about Chris is he was extremely strict. He I mean, that's really all I can say. He was just very strict. So I learned a lot of things. I wouldn't say the hard way because people have it harder, right? But him and I just sometimes did not get along. So the person I went to was my mother, right? And I don't know if that's how all mama's boys come around to it. I would say though, a lot of them probably have a very strong-willed mother, like I do. Someone that's not going to bow down to the fight. Uh, and I mean, I just idled that growing up. So that's where it comes from, right? I think I said it earlier in this episode. My mom's my biggest cheerleader, biggest supporter. Uh, I can count. There are countless times. I think last time I was with you, I told you about my home run, right? I I I think I was 9 or 10. I looked back at her and I said, "Hey, this one's for you." I'd never hit a home run before in my life, right? And it just straight over the fence. I don't think there was a person in the world that could have calmed my mom down in that time.
I could see that.
Dude,
I
I
could
mean,
see
she
that.
was like on the fence. She was just going, "That's my baby," just going crazy.
Oh
So,
man, that's
yeah,
awesome.
man, it was just, I have always had deep rooted support from her. Um, and that's something I can never replace. And the least I can be is a mama's boy
Yeah.
because of it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Dude, shout out. When I did the episode with Ray, we were just shouting people out like left and right. So
Yeah.
shout out to your mom.
Yeah,
It's up to
dude.
you whether or not you want to say her name, but well, to
Yeah.
you that's mom. To me, that's also I also call her mom.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also mom,
So
dude.
all right, we'll leave it at that. Um, yeah, man. So how do you feel like that has? Because as we were going through the show notes and stuff like that, like even when I met you, I met you. We were what, like 24, I think. Like I was probably 23. You were no, I was probably like 21. You were
You were 21, I was 24.
yeah. So even when I met you and we would go out to bars and stuff like that, all of the guys would be like, Brandon doesn't even have kids, but he's already acting as if like he has kids at home. Because we make a joke
Yeah.
like Brandon's now wife. Um, Brandon would come back from a deployment, I think, and we would be at the bar. Shout out to Red Door. Red Door is awesome. If you're ever in the
Oh, Red
Destin
Door.
area, also Red Door, pay me for saying this, but if you're ever in the, if you're ever in the Destin area and needed a bar to go hang out at, Red Door is like premier. I love Red Door.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, when we would come back from, deployments and stuff, we would go out to the bars. Brandon would have like, a couple of beers and he's like, I gotta get home to go sweep and mop and do all this like crazy shit. And we're like, bro, it's like noon, dude. Calm down.
Yeah,
It's like my
dude.
wife's gonna be home any minute, dude. I need to go like cook like
Yeah.
a 4-course meal and do this and that and the other. So Kate got what she wanted because I remember I remember seeing Kate and being like, "This girl is swooning over you, dude." And
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
dude.
quick, man. Like you guys got together, you dated for a little while. You wanted a deployment, correct? While you guys were dating?
Yeah, so I met, um I met Kate. Actually, I met pretty much all of you at a very piss poor time in my life. For those of you that don't know me, I was married before my first deployment to to Afghanistan. Things did not go well, uh, and when I got back from that deployment, we decided to cut things off. Just because, I mean, dude, my ex and I got we started dating at 7. I think we were 17 when we first got together, right? So we had been together from 17 to when I was 24 with nothing, no one in between, right? So it's very hard for those young relationships to really do anything and not be curious about everything else. And I mean, it's things happen. Curiosity got the best of her, and we decided just to take things different ways. Um, but yeah, so I get back from that deployment and you know, I'm I'm reckless is the best way I can say it. We're going out at the time, we were going out from Wednesday night at the block, which you and I just talked about, right? For those of you that don't know the block, they have quarter beer night, so you can hand them a quarter and get a beer. Um, so I was getting pretty wasted at at the block, line dancing to bad country music at the time. Um, Thursday nights, we would go to ladies' night at McGuire's, which is ladies drink free, and the guys just show up because there's a bunch of girls
Oh,
there.
100%. They're just standing at the edge of the
Yeah,
bar, just staring like a bunch of creeps.
yeah, dude. And then Friday and Saturday, we live in Destin, Florida, so we're gonna go out and party in Destin, Florida, and so we do that, and then we would finish it off Sunday morning brunch, bottomless mimosas at Casey's Beach Bar, and that would Wednesday to Sunday of just being a degenerate. There were no breaks, dude. I don't know how I didn't die back then. Anyways, long story short, Thursday to Sunday, drinking all the time. Um, and it just so happened at the lowest point in my life, I ended up meeting the love of my life. I had told myself, never getting married again. The first time fucking sucked, right? Uh, but then I walked into Lucky's Rotten Apple and I was meeting Chad for the night. And shout out Chad Spots.
Yeah,
Absolutely
he's a
fucking
dog.
love that. That guy's a dog. Absolutely love
I
him.
want him on the fucking podcast, soon. I'm
Absolutely.
writing that down.
Um, yeah, and Chad Chad runs up to me and he goes, "Hey, bro, I got 3 girls with me. One of them is off limits, the redhead. Can't touch her." Right? And I thought that was because of Chad. No, his boy, right? One of his acquaintances had, been trying to date Caitlin for a little bit. And immediately, dude, I was like, I don't know if I want to respect that request, you know? You know? Um, so, that night passes. I end up not getting her number just out of respect for Chad and his request. Every single weekend after that, I ran into Kate until I redeployed, right? And for those of you that don't know our deployment timeframes, it was you were home for 6 months and then you were gone for 3, home for 6 months, gone for 3. We were kind of on what is that, a 2 to 1,
Yeah, it was a 2 to 1.
right? Yeah, but I mean on paper 2 to 1, in reality not really.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd be deployed for like
and
120 days. And then on where they'd be
yeah,
like, "You've only been gone for 90 days." And you're like, "All right, whatever."
yeah, you were in transit for
Yeah,
40. You're
exactly.
like, oh God. Yeah. So I was kind of dragging my feet, didn't really want anything serious before I deployed, didn't really, I was still kind of weird about Chad's request. Uh, and I run into her and she keeps, I remember this very vividly. She keeps looking at the clock at Red Door. And me being cocky, confident at the time, I was like, do you have somewhere else better to be? And she very matter of factly goes, yeah, I have to go check in to the ER for my shift in 3.5 hours. And immediately I'm like, okay, like, gonna get you an Uber, blah, blah, blah. Still did not try getting her number. Before her Uber gets there, she grabs my phone, puts her number in it, and the rest is history, dude. Like, since then, there hasn't been really like a weekend or a day we've been apart.
And that's funny because that is how you perceive this story. Kate was, like, obsessed over you, dude.
Yeah.
We go
Yeah.
to like, Brandon is telling the story in the most humble way possible, in my opinion, and, like, pretty much all of your stories have been, like, just you're a humble dude, which is awesome. Kate, we would go out to the bars, and Kate would, like she was willing to fight somebody if you weren't showing up. She would go up to Chad and me and be like, "Where is he?" I'm like, "I don't know, Batman. Like, what do you want me
Yeah.
to do?" Like like
Oh,
she'd be
man.
like, "Well, are you
Yeah.
gonna text him?" And I'm like, "Dude, just talk to him." She's like, "No." And so, it was intimidating, right? Because, like I said, like we would go out to the bars and stuff like that. Brandon would just be standing there, and girls would walk up to him and be like, "Give me your number." And Brandon was like,
Yeah.
"No, get
Yeah.
away from me."
No,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
get
yeah, get off
get
me.
away.
And he's like, "I'm
Yeah.
waiting for somebody." And then Kate finally made a move. You also finally made a move. Um, and so, like you said, the rest is history. And now you guys have
Yeah.
a beautiful little girl, and she's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
So let's
Yeah.
let's backtrack here for a second. The relationship with
Yeah.
your mom, and then the relationship that you grew with Kate. How do you feel like that has influenced? Because Lily is gonna grow up to be. I mean, she already is, but like that is definition daddy's little girl. She loved you
Oh,
so much,
yeah,
dude.
dude. Yeah.
And so I'm curious on like how the relationship with your mom and Kate over the years has influenced you to be as much of a family man as you are now.
Yeah, so it's not really airing out dirty laundry. Caitlin's very, very vocal about her, situation with her father. Um, Long story short, it was extremely rocky, right? Um, she now does not even talk to her father, and seeing the pain that Caitlin has gone through, and that is someone that I can directly tie to Lily, right? Because I still see the pain in Kate's eyes when she talks about her dad, and she's 29 years old. Um, I will never, ever be that type of father. I will do everything until my last breath to make sure that girl is supported the way my mother supported me, that she is not alone, the way Kate felt when her dad stepped out, and that I will not be an absent father. Uh, I'm extremely passionate about that. Lily is by far my most prized possession in life, um, and there's there's nothing no one can do or say to me that would make me back down when it comes to protecting her and making sure she feels as loved as excuse sorry, getting choked up. Uh, as loved as I know she is in my heart, right? So, yeah, dude. It's a touchy thing, man. I can't explain it. It's just one of those things that absolutely gets me every time I talk about it, no matter how much I talk about it.
Yeah. I can already see people with pitchforks after hearing you say that your daughter is your most prized possession.
I mean, there's different things, right? So you can value I value my marriage. I value Caitlin a lot. Uh, Caitlin knows what she has given me in life. Um, I never thought I could have, right? I told you before, like I did have a first marriage, right? Kaylin is my second marriage. That first marriage, we did try to have kids, and I just thought I was sterile. I went into my relationship with Caitlin telling her I was sterile
Mhm. I remember you
because
talking about
I
that, yeah.
yeah, telling her I was sterile. So, I never thought I could have a family at all, and being able to have a family, Caitlin knows how loved she is too, man. Like, uh, Lily is like, I'll reiterate it. That girl is my world. Caitlin is my world. The whole thing is my world. Tank is my
Tank
world,
is the
right?
greatest fucking dog on the existence of this
Oh
planet.
yeah, dude. Shout out
Yeah,
Tank.
um, you sent me a quote, and I actually thought this was, like, super powerful. This is one of my, I guess if you call it, like, pillars, like, things that I truly believe in. Uh, it touches on the subject of identity, and so you put in here, "Your past does not have to reflect who you become." And so we just recently talked about, your mom, your wife, and your daughter. What specific advice would you give to someone who feels trapped by their past or their current circumstances, specifically with family? Because a lot of people who are inevitably going to listen to this podcast, right? Part of this podcast is to talk about the resilience piece that you and I have talked about, offline and stuff like that. And I'm hoping they're going to be able to hear that you had a rough relationship, like a super rough relationship with your father and stepfathers, like over the years, like growing up. And you turned out to be a fucking, like, in my opinion, you turned out to be a fucking awesome dad, like awesome husband, awesome dude. Like I said earlier, one of my best friends. So, um, what advice would you give to those people that kind of feel like stuck or trapped?
Oh man, I actually have a good example. It's not exactly advice. It's a real life story. So my mom grew up in not that great of a household, right? My family is not rich by any means. I wouldn't even say that part of the family is middle class. Like it's very much lower class income. We have some family on welfare. Um, we've had drugs in the family. We've had suicides in the family. All of it, right? So it really not a great. And I'm not calling my family not great, right? I'm blessed to have the family I have, but there are definitely some individuals in the family that um, I wouldn't want, you know, Lily around kind of thing. Anyways, so my mom grew up in that. She lost her father shortly after I was born. I think I was between the age of 6 months and a year when my grandfather passed away. All the stories that I've heard about him, he was not a very nice man. He was a very much a raging alcoholic, and she had to find a way to get out of the situation she was dealt in life. My mom gave it her all, and this is why let me pause the story. When I see abusive relationships or um, you know, just general unhappiness to the point where it's affecting your mental state to be with someone, but people are saying I'm stuck because of kids. My mom is the epitome of you don't have to be stuck because of children, right? She moved us out of Lake City, Florida, which is where, at the time there were a lot of drugs in the family. I think also there had been two or three suicides in the family. So it was just very, very down. Like everything so depressing. It felt like just like the whole city was just grabbing you and like trying to hold you down. My mom's basically said, no, fuck that. Um, she decided to start working in finance. And I don't think I've even told you this. My mom did not graduate high school because of my sister. My mom has a GED. So had a GED. My mom now holds a bachelor's and a master's in finance. And she was able to do that with two kids, with still being in the dating pool. And she had a phenomenal career working for the people that, the company she decided to work for. Um, so I wouldn't call that advice, but uh, I'm living proof. My mom gave me a better life, me and my sister a better life just by saying, I'm not going to follow the status quo. I'm not going to be stuck by what my family has been dealt with. And let's decide, or let's grow our own branch or even our own tree over here. And let's see how high we can, how tall we can grow, how much we can flourish. And dude, she has flourished. And this is the part where I'm not going to be so humble, right? My sister and I are very successful, right? Um, Not only in terms of finances, but in terms of life. My sister has 2 kids. I'm with the absolute love of my life, with an amazing daughter, um, and because it hasn't been said yet, another on the way very soon.
Woo, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
I was
Yeah.
curious if you were gonna
So
share that.
yeah, I am,
Yeah.
um, I'm rich, dude. I'm so full of just love and support, and all because my 21-year-old mother said, I'm not gonna be held down just because of family ties. And she took off.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for, sharing that. Do you have examples of the lessons that you've learned from watching your mom be resilient over those years? And, the struggles that you and your sister had to endure? Because that's a lot on not even just a parent, but, like, that's a lot on the kids as well to have to support their parent through a lot of those struggles as well, and not necessarily a lot as in, like, a lot of stress, but oftentimes you find, especially from, like, young men, right, you find that those kinds of boys will, like, grow up a little bit faster than in a more traditional home kinda thing, right? So, with that being said, how do you feel like you've applied the lessons that your mom has taught you in resilience? Like, what does that look like in your life?
Yeah. Don't For me, that lesson looked a lot like don't let anybody or anything ever hold you back, right? You will always be the best you can be, and you will give it 100%. And if you can't make it to 100%, give it whatever you have, right? Everybody says, oh, you know, I gave that my 110%. Well, I don't fully believe in that. Like, there's only 100% of you, and sometimes you're bogged up doing other things, right? Let's say you didn't sleep well. Can you give 100% that day? No. Let's say you're going through a really poor mental state. Can you give 100% that day? No. But even on the bad days, you still have 50 to 60% of everything you can give to be a better person. And that's the advice I always grew up with. That is the lesson I learned watching my mother is just don't let the bad times take away from your potential.
Absolutely, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. You also said in here, so just looking at your quotes, um, you also said, "Have faith in yourself. I promise you are a lot more capable than you believe." Can you share a story or a time where you feel like you had to apply that advice to yourself?
Yes. Um, so I already told you guys a story about what changed my path, right? Uh, I decided that I decided to go see recruiters. I took about 2 months and really studied each branch of service. At first, I really wanted to be a Marine. I like was dreaming about it. I went into the recruiter's office very confident. I am absolutely that recruit that brought his mom to the recruiting station, and I'm talking with the recruiter for probably about an hour and a half. About 30 minutes of that, my mom actually sat in. She politely stands up. She says, I'm good in here. I'll see you out in the car." And me and this recruiter decided to continue talking for the next hour. I finally get back out to the car, and my mom is bawling her eyes out in the car. And she looks at me and she was like, I know you want to do this, but I also know what a liar looks like. And uh, the dude was absolutely lying through us. Nothing against the recruiter, right? That's recruiting. Um, but I told him I want to be a helicopter pilot. He told me, yeah, but you have to do your stint in infantry first. And then once you go through infantry, it's real easy to become a pilot from there. All you have to do is submit an application. It'll get approved, no problem, and you'll be a pilot, right? Yeah, my mom was not having that. She could not fathom her baby boy being an infantryman in the Marines. Um, and she goes, "Why don't you just go over there, right? Go over to the Air Force." So I did. I went in there, and she still wasn't happy because the first thing I saw was the special warfare signs that were all over the place. It was, "Oh, AFSOC, right? We're right there with Hurlburt, AFSOC, AFSOC." Um, so I told the recruiter I want to be a CCT. And luckily, my mom, I don't think she fully understood what that meant at the time. Uh, but yeah, I started training. This was still 275-pound Brandon. Um, and I couldn't run a mile in less than 10 minutes at the time. Right. So I knew there was a lot of work. The recruiter literally looked at me. He kind of laughed and he goes, "Lose some weight and then come back and see
Yeah,
me."
get your fat ass out of my office.
Yeah, dude. He did. He did. So I went to a couple a couple PT events with that recruiter. Long story short, that recruiter didn't really work out for me. So I then pushed out to Pensacola and said, "You know what, fuck that. I'll find another recruiter. Let's go out here." That recruiter did so much. She was phenomenal, dude. This recruiter was amazing. She found me a unit that would PT with me, like an actual STS unit that would PT with me to get me in shape. I ended up losing, so I went from 275 to 230. Yeah, yeah, 275 to 230. I was running 5 miles, at a decent pace. I think I was running a 9-minute pace for 5 miles. Really getting ready for the past. And for those of you that don't know what the past is, I do not know the acronym for it, but it's essentially the special operations physical training test that you will take, and it's more strenuous than the basic Air Force test. And you have to meet for every single one, PJ being the highest. You have to meet different thresholds of what you have to do. Um, I was not able to pass the CCT test. I did pass the TAC-P test, and she decided, hey, you can either continue training, but it'll be another, 3 to 6 months before we can get you a slot, or you can go to MEPS now and do TAC-P. I was like, it's still special tactics. Let's go do it. So I push off to MEPS 2 weeks later and get to MEPS, failed the depth perception test. So there goes that. And looking back on it, it could have been a very dumb decision for me to do this. But as soon as she got word that I could not do TAC-P because of my depth perception, because that fucking dot test is what it is.
Yeah, that
Uh,
test
yeah,
that
dude.
test is tough.
Yeah, that test is absolutely awful. And for those of you that don't know what it is, please look up Air Force dot test on Google and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's 20 lines of 4 dots, 5 dots, and you have to pick out which one stands out to you the most. For me, that was none of them. So, yeah. So I get back to Pensacola and she goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" And this is where it could have been the worst decision of my life. But I said, "I don't care what job it is. Um, Sign me up for it. I'll leave when it's ready." 2 weeks after that, I'm on the bus going to Air Force Basic to be an open mechanic in the Air Force.
How the mighty
Yeah.
has fallen.
Yeah, dude. So I'm going to be an open mechanic, and to put salt in the wound, they put me in one of the special tactics like squadrons. My entire flight, other than 3 of us, was TAC-P recruits. So it literally would have been the class I would have been in. Those would have been the guys I would have went through Medina with, and everything. But it ended up working out. Um, and this is where your question kind of comes back to me, like, you know, what do you mean by potential, right? That quote that I sent you, about, hey, give it your all because I promise, or I promise you're as capable as, or you're more capable than you may think you are. Uh, so I was not happy with my choice to be in um, open as an open mechanic, and it just so happened that week 3 we go to a briefing. It's for the Air Force Honor Guard, And these guys come in, dude, and they look sharp. I mean, they are just they are picturesque. All the posters that the Air Force has, these dudes are it, right? Um, Going through the brief, I hear the commander at the time. He goes, "Yes, there is a height requirement. So if you were below I think it was
Yeah,
6'2".
I couldn't do that shit. I wanted to be an honor
Yeah,
guard so bad, but I was too short.
yeah, yeah, dude. I think it was 6'2". He goes, "If you're below 6'2", raise your hand," and it was like
Yeah, everyone.
85%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 85%. And most of my boys are leaving, so I I'm like, "Well, fuck it, dude." Like, I'm the I'm the flight leader at the time. I was like, I'm not just gonna not go back with them, so I'll just walk back. And dude, I wanna say her name was Senior Master Sergeant Byington. She was part of the Air Force Honor Guard. She It's the first time in basic I had been treated like back to normal. She goes, "Hey, tall guy, where are you going?" And, Airman basic, trainee Hearne at the time didn't know what to do with his hands. So I'm freaking out, like parade rest, attention. And she was like, "Hey, stop. What is your name?" And I was like, "Ma'am, trainee Hearne reports as ordered. My name's trainee Hearne," and I'm pretty sure at this point she's like, "Okay, maybe I shouldn't have called this guy out. He's on the spectrum
Yeah. Oh,
somewhere."
they let the autistic in the Air Force, I see.
Yeah, dude. Oh, you're a big guy, huh? Yeah. No, but I gave my reporting statement. And she was like, "No, what is your name? Tell me your name." And at that point, I just had like no idea. I thought for sure it was a trap, right? Like, no, there's no way. Because they had just told us, like, "Oh, you guys will always be, yeah, no matter who talks to you, you're trainees, you're nothing better than a trainee, blah, blah, blah." And this was before the Air Force went through the big, reform that they had in basic training. So like we're still getting cussed at. We're still getting dogged on every single day. We're still doing calisthenics until we can't anymore. And I broke at that point. I was like, I'm Brandon. And I senior master and was like, "Well, Brandon, why don't you come sit down with me over here? I'm gonna get you some water. Obviously this is a very stressful situation. I get it. And she looked at me and she was like, "But no matter what, I'm still a person too." And so we went through. I didn't know it at the time. It was an interview to become part of the United States Air Force Honor Guard, which I think they said it was some ridiculous statistic, like 0.1% of people get
Yeah,
selected
it's
for it.
super low. Yeah, that's a phenomenal accomplishment that you were part of the honor guard, yeah.
Yeah, so, even just getting through the interview, I go back and me and a guy from my brother flight, he's walking back with me and, we're chatting it up the entire time. The the entire time we're in formation, which I laugh because I thought of, like, Cam's story at that point, "Well, what a piece of shit I was for talking in formation," kinda thing. Um, and then I remember Cam's story.
Yeah, he's, like,
Uh,
ditching airmen to go hang out with
yeah.
girls. If you're
Um,
listening to this right now and you have not heard Cam Carter's story, I think it's, like, episode 2, I believe, after Brandon's episode, go check that
2 or
out.
3, yeah,
Yeah, go check that out.
yeah. I'm your biggest fan, dude. I know your episodes. Um, but anyways, yeah, so we're walking back, we're chatting it up, and he was like, "Oh, man, I biffed that, blah, blah, blah," and he's just dogging on himself, and the entire time I'm thinking like, "Dude, this senior master sergeant got me to break my military bearing, to call myself Brandon," and the whole time the Air Force Honor Guard was briefing us, all they told us about was military bearing is, like, top par. Attention to detail is at the top. Like, you will not make it if you do not have any of that. Um, and the guy that gave me my interview was actually a CCT fail out. And he told me, "Hey, man, if you really want to do this, if you really want to be a TAC P, you can always follow the path that I'm going. And uh, when you get out of the honor guard in 2 years, you can pick whatever job you want in the Air Force. That's part of the going to the honor guard. You don't go back into what job you were given." And immediately that was my spot in. I was like, bet, doing it. I'll spend 2 years up there in DC yeah, it's in Joint Base Anacostia Bowling, DC, right in the southwest corner. You can see all the monuments from base, right across the Potomac River from Washington Reagan International. So week 6, I get called up, right? I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I hadn't heard anything about the honor guard. I just thought like, oh, well, I really hope I get a cool aircraft because I'm going to be working on it.
Turning wrenches in the heat, dude.
Turning wrenches,
Yo, hold on, sorry, but
dragging knuckles.
quick pause real quick. God bless those dudes. Like, genuinely, we haven't really, like, dove deep into it, but Brandon was aircrew. We'll finish the rest of his story off for the honor guard stuff, but he inevitably goes and, flies aircraft with me, and that's how I know him. But those maintenance guys do not get enough credit for
No, they don't.
what they do. And I don't think a single maintenance guy is going to hear this episode, but if they do, so first off, the aircrew guys that are listening to this episode, go thank your fucking maintenance guys. And if you don't,
Yeah.
start doing it. Those dudes
Yeah, dude.
ensure that we live the lifestyle that we do, and they get nothing out of it. So,
Yeah, I don't care if it's contractor or active duty or reservist, whoever you have that is maintaining your aircraft, you have to almost buy them a drink.
yeah.
Because
At a minimum.
the only reason you are legal to fly is because of those guys. You wouldn't be this 10,000 hour pilot without the maintainers that took care of your bird while it was on the
Yeah,
ground.
100%. If my keyboard fucks up, I'm like, "Oh, my keyboard doesn't work," and those dudes are just like, I'm sitting in an
Yeah,
air-conditioned aircraft, like,
yeah. Where's my ratchet strap?
yeah. Can you talk very quickly, because I do have one last question I wanna ask you outside of this. For the audience that knows nothing about the honor guard, what was a typical week in the honor guard like?
Oh man, it all depends on what phase you're at in the honor guard. Um, while you're in training, so it's 8 weeks of training, and it is absolute hell the entire time. Um, or at least it was when I was there. We're waking up at 3:30 in the morning to people banging on our doors. That was the instructors. We're immediately getting into PT gear that has to be starched and ironed. And if you sweat through your iron, there's more calisthenics at the end of the day for you. If you are outside of training, right, you've made it through that aspect, you go into 4 different elements. You are picked based on really your stature, right? Because it's all about image in the honor guard. I got picked to be the color guard, right? So I'm carrying either the Air Force flag, the General's flag, the United States flag, or the guidon. That was my job. You also have the body bearers, right? So these are the big dudes that can carry up to 1,200 pounds for a team of 6. You have the firing party, which is all about rhythm, right? Those are the guys that do the 21 gun salute. And then you have your drill team, which is a separate 8-week training event that you have to go through, which is even harder than the initial training just to become a ceremonial guardsman. Those guys are up from 3 to about 8 doing calisthenics, drill. They have to be perfect, absolutely perfect at all time. And most people have probably seen those videos because that's when the honor guard is showcased. It's usually the drill team that's on there. Most most people have probably seen the gauntlet, which is where you have the commander of troops walking through a gauntlet of bayonets, right? So I got picked for colors, and it is training until you become fully qualified. Your day in and day out when you're not out in Arlington National Cemetery doing funerals is becoming a better ceremonial guardsman. You're always you're always doing something to be better, whether it's PT, whether it's drill, whether it's learning how. We had to learn how to. I personally had to learn every aspect of a funeral because as the guidon, you're essentially the commander's aide because the commanders don't have time to learn every aspect. So you're whispering in the commander's ear up at the front of the troops saying, "Hey, sir, we're going to take a left here. Hey, sir, the next move is to present arms. Hey, just letting you know, national anthem's coming up or taps is coming up. hey, here's the 21 gun salute. Don't get spooked. Those kind of things. So yeah, it's just constant, constant training, no matter what you're doing.
It was interesting because we did, I was part of the flyover crew for Macho's funeral, and when we went to uh the cemetery, like the honor guard was already there, and it wasn't even the day of the funeral, but these guys were in uniform. They had all the guns. They were ready to go, and a couple of weapon school guys. We all got together and we were like, we have to. This is for Macho. Like Macho would have wanted an elite showing. Like, he would have wanted these guys to be squared away. It's it was fortunate for us that we were just shocked, man. Like, these guys were, like you said, they're so sharp. Their uniform was so sharp.
Yeah.
These guys were already, like, flipping guns, doing the whole thing, just, like, hanging out when we showed up. And one of my buddies, call sign Poppy, was like, "Hey, we should do a timing piece for when the aircraft flies over, so we can get it down." Like, I've never done that before. Like, none of us have ever done that before. So we're like
Yeah.
Googling how to do a flyover, like how to get the timing for the flyover correctly. And the honor guard guys, I just got goosebumps thinking about this. The honor guard guys walked up to us and was like, "Do you want us to do a rehearsal?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, go ahead." They did
Yeah.
5 or 6 rehearsals unprompted. Like, I didn't ask them to keep going. They just kept doing it. And then there was a guy with a timer, like, he was like, "Yeah, 32 seconds, like, this happens. At 3 minutes and 15 seconds, that happens." So,
Nice.
like, we had all that
Yeah,
down.
dude.
We didn't have to do anything. Like, we watched them rehearse, and obviously, we're crying because it was for Macho and stuff like that, but to your point, man, like, those guys were just so squared away.
No, dude, the craziest part about your story with Macho is those guys were most likely base honor guard too. And I have so much respect for base honor guard because those dudes are doing it
Yeah.
voluntarily, right? That is not their sole job. I was an 8G, like it was my actual special duty. All those dudes are still tied to an AFSC that they do sometimes at the same time they're doing honor guard. Honor guard is just a voluntary thing, and the base honor guard dudes, they the way it is those guys, I just have so much respect
Yeah,
for them, right? Because
100%.
they do most of the active duty funerals, unless it's a very highly publicized event on why that airman has died active duty. Most of it's getting pushed back to the
Yeah,
base, right? If an airman dies because of an incident, let's say at Mountain Home, well, Mountain Home Honor Guard is going to take care of him. If an airman dies downrange and media just happens to get, happens to see it or the family requests it, that's when the actual Air Force Honor Guard, they'll come out to Arlington, and that's active duty funerals are not easy, dude. That I have a very vivid memory that I just it is hard to get it out of my head. Sometimes when especially when you get news of somebody in the force dying,
yeah.
um, it's not a simple thing.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing that, and, you know, obviously, like, kudos to you for an extremely successful, like, Air Force career, especially starting off with the honor guard and stuff like that. Um, as we come to a close here, we talked a lot just about, your youth, like, your relationship with your mom, like, how she's essentially, like, motivated and inspired you just through her actions and you watching her actions, and then how that's applied to your family, um, as a father now, which I think is just completely awesome. Like I said, earlier in the episode, like, it's an inspiration to me. I've always told you this, but I'm just here to remind you, I guess. But it's an inspiration to me, especially someone who, like, I would not have defined myself as a family man, but I've told you that watching your relationship grow to the extent that it has with Kate has, like, full force, like, full throttle made me want to pursue that, like, with my girlfriend, with Jamie as well. So, I appreciate you just being like a positive influence there and just being awesome. Um,
I appreciate the words, man.
yeah, man. So, last, I guess, statement or question or thought. Uh, do you have any do you have any final thoughts for our listeners who might be standing at their own crossroads right now?
It doesn't matter what direction you pick, you can always reset. So if you take a left and the left isn't truly what you want to do, there is still time for you to take that right. You may have to backtrack a little bit. It may not be fun. Take the right, you know, pick a direction, give it what you have. If it doesn't work out, go the other direction. Don't be stuck. You don't have to be stuck.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and thanks for sharing this journey with me as well, and all the listeners, obviously, as well. But just thanks for being a good dude. Thanks for being a phenomenal father, friend, and all that stuff. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, and to the listeners that do end up tuning in to this episode, thank you. I hope whatever, was said during this is beneficial to you, or you at least you take something, right? I'm an open book, right? Get in touch with me. If you know me, get in touch with me. If you have issues, call me. I'm always open for a discussion. I've been through some hard times. Uh, I'm not going to say I have the answers for everything, but I can at least listen.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.